been ghosted or discarded by somebody with BPD or suspected BPD and all the patterns of BPD, and now you're like the ex? It was maybe a final discard, or you're not sure. You got ghosted. It's on, it's off. You want them back. You're going to keep redoing this. And so are you still, and I say still because so many people are still, unless you're new to this, are you still trying to stay in contact with that person with BPD who's your ex, or you've tried many times, all these iterations, because you think, never mind even closure. Some people think, oh yeah, it's about the closure. It's not about the closure. It's about when you still want your ex back. It's about when you're in agony and you don't know how to let go, and people with codependency are self-abandoning. But it's also like, why do you think, if this applies to you, if you can resonate with this, why do you think you're still seeking the why of what just happened, or what happened many times over? Why isn't it going to work out? Why won't they answer your questions? Why did they do this? Why did they do that? Why did they do the other thing? How could they just do that? They loved you and everything, so you thought, and so they made it seem, until that major split to devaluation, and maybe many others from which they don't recover and get into idealization again. Maybe come back to a base mood, so it's approach, avoid, it's pull you in, push you out, pull you in, push you out. Are you still reading all the people on BPD, writing on all those like Quoras and Reddits? And are you doing that and watching? I don't know how many people at BPD are actually YouTubers today, but there's a few out there that I know of. There might be more. Are you still watching them to get answers about the why? Why did they do this? Why did they do that? Because the thing about that is, A, you're not focusing on yourself. B, you're keeping yourself stuck in a lot of agony, and you're not going to get the whys from anybody, the whys and the wherefores, not W-I-S-E, from anybody with BPD. Why is that? Well, because even the ones writing on certain websites, and writing is even easier for them to not come across as dysregulated or upset by your question, and everything that a person out there with BPD tries to explain to you, like on social media sites or YouTube, it's really only their opinion, largely, about why they did what they did. And they don't even really still know why they did what they did. They will insert reason here, insert reason there. If you read them often or you watch them often, they're not really consistent, because they can talk about splitting. They can talk about how they'll want to leave you before you leave them, and fear of rejection and fear of abandonment, maybe even fear of engulfment. But this is their articulated IQ fooling you, because they really emotionally don't know, most of them. And even if they have ideas about what they're saying about why they do this, why they do that, or if a person in your life who isn't on social media and BPD, who had, your BPDX, or on off again, if they're saying, if they'll even engage the conversation, which usually doesn't go well, and usually they don't, then what's happening is they're fooling themselves, because they have this IQ that can articulate stuff that they might have heard, they might know or not know in intellectually, but they don't have any understanding still of how they lack self, how they lack congruence, how they have communication deficits, how they have relational deficits, how they split and why. I mean, they might give you some examples. But if you're looking for the answer to why the borderline just did whatever they did to you, is seeking it from an ex or an on-off person, or going back to try to find out more, will it work, won't it work, you're really just increasing your own pain, and it's those codependent repetition compulsion cycles I've been talking about. So clearly what this video is to remind some people of, and maybe to say to some people who haven't heard this before, if you're still pursuing a BPD-X, for any, and you think, and for a lot of people, it's only for the reason to find out what happened, like why. Most people with BPD, even when they are, have stable high IQs, they can articulate all kinds of stuff they've read and or heard, maybe some they picked up in some therapy, but they don't have the emotional intelligence. They don't understand the deep down emotional motivators the repetition compulsions for why they did do what they did do or how it affected you. They really don't hear you. So what's happening if you continue to do this is, and look for the whys, the wherefores, and or quote closure, and or slide back in and go around again. There's cycles speed up faster, devaluation happens faster, and you're just going to be back in the same really painful, confused, losing yourself place. And so what's happening there? Well, you're fooling yourself, and they're fooling you. And wait a minute, didn't they fool you in the beginning? Didn't it seem fantastic in the beginning, like way too good to be true? And many people that I've worked with, clients of mine, have said, yeah, in the beginning, I kind of knew this, I kind of knew that. Red flags being recognized, gut feelings being had, but not paid attention to. So now if you're still doing this and you can't kind of break the habit or the cycle, I'm out here to work with anybody that resonates with me on any aspect of these breakups and how to go no contact, how to start thinking and paying attention to you as a codependent person who needs to find out more about that so you can actually get into a healing recovery journey. And I promise you, if you work with me, I can answer any and every question you have about the whys and the wherefores and why the borderlines do what they do. Because you're not going to get it from them, even if you get it piecemeal. It's not really going to make sense because most people with BPD who haven't really truly recovered, and maybe they've had no treatment, and maybe they just have patterns of BPD, they really don't know. Emotionally down deep inside, there's no container of self to actually know why they're doing what they're doing, but they can intellectually articulate kind of endlessly about a lot of things that they've heard, read, seen in other places where people with BPD follow each other online. Don't get fooled again.